Hi, I'm Corey and welcome to my channel. This is actually not going to be an episode of Flips, Flaps, and Folds. Instead, I'm going to try to answer the question and show you guys how I made this particular journal. So if you're interested in that, hang on just a couple minutes and I'll get started on it. But I had also indicated for my 500 people who subscribed that I would make one, a blank one, obviously not a full one, but the base, and do a drawing. Well, I goofed and life happened and it took way longer than I had intended. I thought I was going to be able to draw this last week, but it didn't happen. So I am going to show how I make it, but I've got enough, because of the process of making it, I've got enough to give away 3. So instead of drawing one name, I'm going to draw 3 names. And anybody who commented on that particular video where I mentioned it, or any of the videos that I've done subsequently, your name went in each time. So every comment got a name. So the people who commented once got their name in here once, and the people who commented a lot got their names in here more frequently. I figured that was the most fair way I could do it. So they are all in here. I watched an episode of The Bourne Ultimatum and wrote down people's names. And so I'll mix them up and I will pull them out. Okay, so I'm giving away 3 albums. The first one is going to go to Manuela Quibero. The second one is going to go to Karen O'Keefe. And the third one is going to go to Carol Laws. So those are the 3 people's names that I've drawn. You are absolutely, I'll try to contact you if I can get a hold of you. If not, I'll put your names on this video. I'll put my email in this video and you can contact me that way, or you can just comment on this particular video in the post and tell me how I can get this to you. I'm happy to mail it internationally as well. It may take a while considering the current situation, but I would love to be able to get you your books. Again, Manuela Quibero, Karen O'Keefe, and Carol Laws. And again, they're not going to be the filled albums. They're going to be the base with the blank pages. So they'll have the album in the cover and the crinkly inside, and then just the pages sewn in. And then the idea being that if you choose to, you can fill them up with the pages. So I will, let's see, today's Monday, the 25th. So I will give it until Sunday the 31st. And if you haven't contacted me by then, I will hang on to this and I'll draw another name or 2 names or 3 names or however many. Okay, so that's the drawing part done. And now I'm going to put this over here. Now the how to make the journal. Okay, and rather than showing you the entire process, I'm going to lay the process out. I think that'll be a lot faster and probably a lot more beneficial for you rather than watching me sew and sew and sew. So anyway, as you can see, by the time I am done with this idea book, we're almost done with the second signature. And I've decided that the center signature will be writing, and then the last 2 signatures will fill. There is no way this thing is going to close. So what I will do is I will sew an extension panel onto this so that it can still come up and close around. Okay, and because I learn from my mistakes, well, sometimes, and the albums that I'm making or finishing up, instead of having 5 signatures, they'll have 3 signatures. And the signatures in this book are 1/4 inch apart. I will make the signatures in the other 3 books 1/3 inch apart, or roughly 1/3 inch apart, to give it a little bit more room in case you, like me, like to make it way too chubby. So those are a couple changes that I've made. And again, I just want to make it clear. It'll be the pages and the lace doily cover and the inside cover as well. So you fill up the pages basically. Okay, so here is the process. And I tried to lay it out so that you could see without having to watch ad nauseum. So the first step I do is I decide the size. And I use my rotary cutter. And I have 2. I have one that I use for fabric and then one that I use for paper, because if you use the paper one for fabric, it's not a win. So I've got 2, and they're not spendy. I probably stole these from my mom, truth to be told, but because she's a quilter. But so I use a rotary cutter and I cut it about 1 inch-ish bigger than I wanted. And I'll show you why in just a minute why I did that. So I cut it and then I ironed it. And I took, this is just a piece of linen. Maybe this is cotton. I don't know. I think it's cotton. Just a piece of muslin cotton, a fabric that's not polyester. That's what this is. And I took a piece of tablecloth, an old piece of tablecloth, and cut it up. And I get these at the Goodwill outlet for next to nothing. And you can see there's stains on this. Yes, it's been washed with bleach and all kinds of non-environmentally friendly things. But I have washed it. And these are the stains that are left. Well, those are going to be covered when we're done, so they don't matter. But it gives us a nice background. So the first thing I do is I cut it about an inch bigger width and length that I want. And I sew all the way around the edge. And I put it, let's see, another one. What did I do? Oh, I covered those all up. Sometimes I'll use a lace top, or I'll just put something down, okay? And then this is my base. This is what I build on. And then once I've got this piece, I just grab literally a pile of cut apart doilies. Now you can use lace, but I like doilies. Sorry, I dropped one. I like using doilies, and you can see some of them are intact. Well, this was a big tablecloth that had a big old hole in it, and it was made by putting these pieces together. So I just cut the fibers out between the pieces, and so I've got a bunch of little pieces. You can use lace. I generally don't, but you can, if you've got bits of lace. And this is the beauty. If you've got a doily that's ruined or stained or torn or just otherwise ick, you just use bits of this. You just use little pieces, and that's how you make this happen. And the way I do it is literally just like this. I'll let it hang over the edge a little bit, and I'll start laying them down. Now, I like to, like with mine, I like to mix styles and colors. And so I play with it and move it around until it's where I like it. If you want all white, use all white. Or if you want all off-white, use all off-white. So then I usually start with big pieces, and then I save these mostly intact pieces as what I call my fill-in pieces. And I will, that's got a piece of lace on it. I'll just move it aside. I'll just start laying pieces down. And little pieces get put on last. Oh, here we go. See, this is a nice big half of a doily. And so I'll just kind of go up to the edge, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be precious. This is, I don't even know. And I can cut it as I go along if I need a bigger or smaller piece. Where did I put, well, I use these scissors, probably buried. I generally use my fabric scissors for this, but look, this is a ducky piece of lace. Don't worry, it won't look like a ducky when we're done. And I will just start coming in and laying down pieces. I like I said, a mixture of colors of white and off-white and different shades of the same. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill this all in until I'm happy with it. And I could show you my process, but honestly, it's kind of boring. What you're seeing is what I do until it is absolutely done. So once I'll cut more pieces of lace, because like I said, I like to put bigger pieces in the back and smaller pieces on the top. Little bits like this I'll come in to use to fill for gaps. Little bits like this. Bigger pieces will go down in the back. This is Battenberg lace. Maybe I'll put that here along an edge. And the nice thing about this is I can tuck. Like if I've got a raw edge here, I can lift this up and tuck it under. Okay? And so you get the idea. And I'll move it around and I'll play with it. And when it's almost done, I'll put a little bit more here and there to see what I like. I'm literally just throwing it now. I would spend a little bit more time than that putting it together, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So I budgeted that size piece. I need something a little bit darker over here, so I'll grab a dark piece. And ooh, I really like these, and maybe I need some lighter color right here. And I literally just lay it down, and then I move it around until I'm happy with it. Oh, I have a piece to fill here, and then I'll come in and fill with little bits like that. And I do that until the whole thing is covered, and I'll overlap the edges just a little bit. This one, oh, this was so cool. This is a 1950s wedding dress, and there was a big old hole in it, but I probably got 10 yards of this awesome, awesome fabric off of it. Just cut around the hole. See here, oh, here's another piece. That's a nice color. So I'll just go in and fill the whole thing in like this. And then when I've got it to where I like it, I just lost my, see what happens when you throw your I get container of pins, which I don't see on my desk, even though I know it's here somewhere. Aha. So I'll get a container of pins and I'll open it up and I'll dump them. And I'll start pinning so that I have 2, maybe 3 pins per piece, just depending on what I need. Okay, just stick them in like this, just to hold the pieces down. You can also use a little bit, and when I say a little bit, if you're going to sew this on your machine, you don't want more than a little bit of Fabri-Tac to hold it in place while you sew it down. But I use straight pins, and it's not precious, it's not perfect, it's not, I'm not a seamstress. I don't know anything about sewing except how to turn on my machine and make it do a couple stitches. I know I have to adjust tension depending on how thick it is, and that's pretty much it. There's the extent of my knowledge. So I could sew this by hand, but there's no way on earth that I would do it, because it would make me a crazy person to try to make all of these tiny stitches. And honestly, I like the raggedy look that you get from, you know, little bits that stick up, and the raggedy look you get from the sewing machine. Enough of it stays down that it's sturdy, but enough of it kind of comes loose that I like the texture. So that is my next step. Once I've got it the way I like it, I pin it. I pin the whole thing in place, and it'll look like this. This is the next one. You'll pull it up so you can see all those gazillions of pins. I will pin it till it looks like this, and so that when I pick it up, nothing falls off. Now you'll notice that things wiggle around, but that's okay. It's going to wiggle and shift as you sew. I've yet to make one perfect, and I've done quite a few of these. So I pin it down, and then I start sewing in rows. Okay, so I take it over, this pinned down piece over to my machine, and I start sewing. And this is, did I trim this one? No, this is what it looks like essentially when I'm done. Now, I try to get it close to the edges, but you can see it overlaps. And I get most of the pieces down. I don't know how much shadow is there. And what the back looks like, and you can see I don't measure, I don't make my line straight. I just kind of go up and back and up and back. And each time I start with the length, and I start sewing up and down and up and down and up and down. So I'll sew a seam, and I'll go over 7 or 8 stitches, and then I'll come up, and I'll go over 7 or 8 and come down, and all the way along. And all the pins are out by the time I'm done with this, which makes it a whole lot easier. And then I turn it sideways, and I make long stitches. So this is what the back looks like when I'm done. Now I haven't trimmed this yet, so there's a whole lot of overlap. When I'm ready to do the next step, which is put in the insert, I'll take it over to my rotary cutter, and I will cut it to the size I want. And that's this next piece. So it'll end up looking something like this. I cut it to the size I want it with the rotary cutter, and then I'm left over when I'm done with these kind of little bits, and I'll use these in another project because they're really kind of cool. They're all the sewn little leftover pieces that we made by doing this. And then at the end, if I've got a gap or something, I'll come in with one of these kind of pieces that were cut from a shirt, and I'll fill in a gap, because sometimes the lace shifts when you sew, and you'll get a gap where you don't want one. So I'll just come in with one of these pieces, lay it down, and sew it. Or if I need a better color balance, I'll come in and sew it again. So the ends, once I've trimmed it down with my rotary trimmer, I've done straight stitch all along to tack the pieces down. Then once I've cut it, I'll come in and I'll do a zigzag all the way around to make sure that any loose edges or bits stay down for the edges of my cover. So then I have got this piece. So the outside lace piece is essentially done. For the inside, and this one's a great example. For the inside, I put the whole thing together before, because with this one, I sew the signatures in with my machine. I found it easier and sturdy, and it worked great, and so I'm going to keep doing it. So I will take some lining. Now I used this on my album, this thin cotton. I don't remember where I got it. I've had it for a long time, but I didn't have enough to do all 3 books that way. So I've used a piece of canvas for the other. But I used a piece of this thin piece of cotton, and I did the same thing. I cut it to the size, and then I didn't fold it over. I just went around all the edges so that even though it's going to fray, and I want it to fray because I like that look, it's only going to fray so far. So cut it with my rotary trimmer, went around it with the machine, and then I'm going to lay it in the book. Now, this one has a print direction. There's writing on it, so I want to make sure is this what I want to be my cover, or do I want this side to be my cover? I mean, honestly, on this particular one, I don't think it matters so much. Maybe I'll say this is my cover, so I want to make sure my print goes in the right direction. Now, this is a great example of something that happens frequently. I made the album cover a little bit wider than I made this. Ah, darn it, I blew it. But I'm not starting from scratch. What I'll do is I'll get my lace bin and I'll find a nice bit of, oh, here we go. Here's some nice wide lace, a cotton lace, because this is, mostly cotton and doily kind of material. So I'll get something that matches what I'm doing. And then I will, on this side, before I sew this piece down, I will come in and I'll lay a piece here. And I will sew it here, here, and here. And, you can sew a gazillion times on the cover and it doesn't even show. So I'll make myself a tuck spot. And maybe I'll get another, oh, this is really pretty bit of lace. I really like this. So maybe I'll come over here and I'll use a section of a doily, maybe one that I had in half, and I'll sew it down and I'll make it inside pocket. So I'll sew this down as I sew it to the cover. Okay, so that's my next step. I cut these pieces where I want them and I sew all the way around. Just a straight line stitch all the way around. Now, my cover, my inner cover and my outer cover are one. Okay, so the next thing I do is I get, where did I put it? Here we go. I get my signatures, and I told you that I was going to put 3 signatures in these. They have more pages than mine do. I think I put 5 pages. So then I lay my signatures in to be included. And the way I do it is I'll lay it down like this, as to about to where I want it on the cover. And I'll grab some of my purple tape. I'll open it to the center signature. Okay, make sure it's straight-ish. I'll sew it put it to the center signature, lay it down, and then I'll use purple tape, and then binder clips on the ends, here and here, and I will sew it in place. Okay, so that one is sewn. Then I'll come in and I use a guide or a gauge. This is a 1/4 inch acrylic one, and a 1/4 inch wasn't quite enough in the last book because of how thick I made my pages, and this one's about a 1/3 inch. So I'll lay this down and I will come in with my pages, open it to the center, and when I do the stitch down the center, I make it as long as it'll go on my machine, and I line them up so that the tops and bottoms match. I'll lay it down like this, I'll bring it over, and I'll put my purple tape here. And then I'll use my binder clips and also a straight stitch right down the middle of the page. Okay, and so then this one's done and it's sewn in and it's nice and it's tight and it's safe and blah, blah, blah. I will take this out. Now I've got 2 signatures in. I'll lay my guide again and I'll do the same thing. I'll come in with this signature, make sure my tops and bottoms match. I'll use my purple tape to hold it down, and I'll use my binder clips on top and bottom so that my pages don't move, and then I'll sew it right down the middle. And that way, within just a few minutes, I've got my pages all sewn in the center of my book with the dimension and thickness that I want. And then this will be my wraparound. Now, hopefully this will be enough wraparound. I made it a little bit longer than I made mine so that it wraps more and you've got more space. But that is and then I'll put a grommet here, and then I'll use, like on this one, I'll use a long piece of sari silk so it can be wrapped and tied. Now again, I haven't compressed this, and I'll probably, like I said, put an extension piece on it. But that's all there is to it. It's a little time consuming. It probably takes me a couple hours to make each one. But it's kind of fun, and it feels really, really good to use up all those little scrap bits of doilies that might otherwise get tossed. I get most of mine at the Goodwill outlet, but I found them at yard sales and other places as well. And again, holes don't really matter, stains don't really matter, because you're going to chop up in bits and pieces and just use little bits. All right, and a little bit longer than usual, but I hope that gave you an idea. And if you want to do this particular project, please Give it a shot. If you have any questions, ask me. I'm always happy to help. Take care and happy crafting.